So what do these amazing looking Marshall Monitor 3 ANC headphones bring to the table? Are they the best sounding rock metal ANC headphones? Well, the first thing I listened to using this was Behoff from Bloody Wood featuring Baby Metal and Goat from Polyphia, because I'm DHRME, a dork who hates rubbish music eternally.
Alright, first impressions, these sound surprisingly clear, guys. But before we talk about sound, these have a very distinct look, and that's going to be a big reason as to why you'd get them. Taking inspiration from the black leather and gold of classic Marshall amps and cabs, these really have a very particular look to them. We've seen reviews online saying they love the look, and we've seen reviews saying they don't. We're in the like these camp. But that design language extends to the case as well, which is quite small but unfortunately a bit bulgy. We'd rather have a slightly bigger case which is flatter, but to each their own. Also, since the case is small, you're going to have to change the headband adjustment to put them into the case. The inside of the case has a red velvet Moulin Rouge styling, which, let's just say, we're happy it's on the inside. Now, there's also a nice pocket to store the USB cable. I'm very happy with the details like the accents on the buttons and the coiled cables. The headband adjustment is with discrete ratchets, but I really appreciate that you can actually see a number as to what your adjustment is. I have a 7 on the left and about 6 on the right. Although I don't need to have that, it's a nice touch.
There's a couple of other things I love about the build as well. These are very comfortable. The ear pads are very soft as well as roomy, and I felt like these were hugging my pinny. When you look at the outside of these headphones, you'd be forgiven for thinking that these might have small ear cups. But that's not true. Comparing these to the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra by 4 build, these ear cups are actually bigger. Kind of a neat trick, make the headphones look smaller while actually making them bigger and more comfortable. I'm on board with that. In terms of heat generation, I'm not sure that these are the best though. After wearing them for about 2 hours in a temperature controlled room, I already thought that these were a bit too warm. The cans themselves are light and there isn't too much creak in them. The cups also swivel 180 degrees both ways and they fold up nice and compact. I also like what Marshall has done with the buttons. No touch surface swiping nonsense here. Initially I was a bit annoyed because I thought there were no volume controls, but there is no volume button, but this joystick or knob as Marshall calls it. Essentially there's a button which you can push down, but it's also like a joystick which you can push up to increase volume, down to decrease, and move to the left for a previous track and forward for next track. No double, triple presses of buttons to do that, so I'm pretty happy about this, very much like the Sonos Ace. It's a very good space-saving solution, and I also like the position it's in. Like if you wear your headphones, it's exactly where your right thumb would rest, so it's really nicely designed, and it just has the right tension as well. So it's neither too hard to press nor too easy to trigger accidentally. That's what she said. However, this is a moving part and I wonder how it will age as against simple buttons. Anyway, while the power button is up front and center, there are also 2 other buttons that are almost hidden in the joint of the headband yoke. Just guess which of these are buttons. Did you see it yet? Yes, this is a button and this is a button. So it's kind of on the joint of the yoke of the headphones. And you know what? Even though it's kind of difficult to see at first, it's really easy to hit when you're wearing it because they're kind of raised and they have a nice click as well. So it's well designed, it's hidden away, and you get 2 buttons in addition to that joystick. So there's an M button on the right ear cup, if you can see the M. You can make it do one of 4 things or disable it. The things it can do are also quite curious. The Spotify tab, which I disabled, switch between a couple of EQ presets, change the soundstage, or activate voice assistant. So the other button is the ANC button, if you can see it here. Can you see the ANC button? You can choose what it does, either switch between ANC and transparency only, or even have that completely ANC off mode. Good to know that both the ANC and transparency are adjustable using a slider. And if you set it to a particular setting, say if you don't like too much noise cancelling and move that slider to the middle, the button will remember the setting, or rather the headphones will remember the setting. Also when you turn them off and turn them back on again. It's a nice touch. It's a polished product in that sense. But how does the ANC perform? Well, have a listen to it for yourself first. So yesterday I was working in the room with 4 other people, and with the ANC on max, I could still hear the people in front of me a bit. Things like mechanical keys clacking definitely came in, and while I think it has good low-end noise cancelling, it's just not as good as Tier S headphones. However, it does perform better than some Tier A cans that we have, like the Sennheiser Accentum Plus, and it doesn't have that uncomfortable feeling of pressure like the Soundcore Space One Pro does. I'd put it in Tier A overall. You can adjust the ANC, as I said, and the transparency strength using the slider. And on ANC, the white noise isn't bad at all. It's a bit louder on transparency though. And how does the transparency perform? Let's have a listen. Transparency sounds nice and bright, right? But there is a little bit of white noise when it's silent. I felt like it did cut out the low end a bit, and it affected my colleagues' voices, the deeper voices at least, kind of removing the body in their voice, even though that colleague was intelligible. Higher voices were clearly audible, even when speaking at a normal volume, which was great. It also lacks the sparkle of high-end cans like the Bose QC Ultra, so even though they're very good, overall they're not quite a Tier S level, and they get a solid Tier A though, high up in the Tier A rankings. What I didn't appreciate about these cans is there is a lot of body-borne sounds that I could hear. When I was walking, I could hear every footstep, and even sitting down, I could hear my heartbeat. I haven't really felt this with many other headphones, and I'm not sure if this is something specific to me, but that would discourage me from using these for walks or, just in quiet environments in general. However, when it comes to wind, these were very, very usable. There is no separate mode for wind noise reduction, but in both ANC and transparency, it could deal with moderate wind speeds. So I'd be okay with using these outdoors in moderately windy conditions, biking as we do here in the Netherlands. Something we also do a lot outdoors here is take phone calls. So how do these perform? Take a listen to the samples for yourselves.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Popsicle, ice, testing. 1, 2, 3. That's a Marshall Monitor 3 ANC in breezy and windy conditions. I'm going to try to generate a bit more wind to get a bit more idea of how it does. Very high winds, but in normal winds looking right, normal winds looking left. Let's see how it performs.
Wow, I was shocked by how good these are. Definitely a go for windy calls, guys. I haven't seen too many headphones performing this well in wind speeds above 5 meters per second. 4 is usually the limit at which the voice starts breaking down, but these kept my voice audible for most of that sample, with it sometimes artifacting and cutting out when I spoke quieter. The overall sound was never really unpleasant for the listener either, not too much whooshing of the wind, for example. But what about noisy conditions?
Okay, the Marshall Monitor 3 ANC in noisy conditions, with cars passing by. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 2, 3.
Also in noise, it did pretty admirably, struggling only when the background noise was too high and I spoke really quietly. These are a go for calls, guys. Surprisingly, in quiet conditions, this is what they sound like.
The Marshall Monitor 3 ANC in quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I thought they did the worst there. Not too bad or anything, but just not crystal clear when I spoke a bit quieter. And as far as the Fachmann is concerned, you're getting only decent call controls, so you can change your ANC mode, volume, and you can answer, hang up, or reject a call. Unfortunately, there's no way to mute the call straight from your headphones. There's also no auto answer using the wear sensor or side tone for that matter, but the side tone isn't that much of a big deal since you can put these in transparency anyway. Okay, what about sound? Well, as always, here's a little sample that'll give you some idea of how these sound like, but we'll come back with the frequency response and subjective analysis.
Way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause I was being next to you. Way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause all I needed was my friend. Way back when, way back when, way back when, way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause I was being next to you. Way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause all I needed was my friend. Way back when, way back when, way back when, way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause I was being next to you. Way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause all I needed was my friend. Way back when, way back when, way back when, way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause I was being next to you. Way back when we didn't care what they said, people could stare, I didn't give a damn, cause all I needed was my friend. Way back when, way back when, way back when.
Well, to start off with, these are plenty loud. I was listening to Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name Of, in which Tom Morello is coincidentally playing the Marshall JCM 800 amp, and at 50% on my Galaxy S24 Ultra, it was already loud enough for me. This is what the default sound signature looks like. And for the codec nerds out there, you aren't getting any high-res codecs, SBC, AAC, and that's pretty much it. You're still here? So you probably care about more than just codecs. Well, subjectively, I thought these sounded good. Not high-res kind of good, but certainly they're tuned quite well. Rock and metal sounds very nice on these, though sometimes the higher frequencies do feel a bit compressed if you're looking for stuff like that. These aren't tuned to be bass monsters by default. In fact, I thought they leaned towards having a bit of a clearer sound. The lower treble is accented, and I thought they reminded me a bit of the Biodynamic Avento 300 in that aspect. Now, the sub bass isn't very loud in the default sound mode, but you can definitely feel it, and it's quite well done. You'll notice I've been saying default sound mode quite a lot here. That's because you can customize these quite well. What you've been seeing so far is the default Marshall preset. There are also a bunch of predefined presets that are very straightforward with a bass, mid, and treble boost and a mid reduction for some reason. If you don't like any of these, you can also create your own with a 5-band custom EQ. Good thing is that you can also switch EQ presets using the M button like we said last time. The older model could switch between 3 presets I've read, but this one can only switch between 2. I found the custom EQ preset enough to make some coarse adjustments to the sound. The adaptive loudness isn't something that changes the sound only based on the equal loudness curve, so your frequencies change in accordance with your volume, but it also takes into account your surroundings, which is interesting. So overall, these are very Bose-like in their approach. There's a bit of flexibility, but the drivers and the default tuning is important, and I found them to be quite good. Oh, and good to know, I thought these sounded good on both iOS and Android, very similar, though I thought it sounded a bit louder on my S24 Ultra, the Android, and the volume jumps were more uneven there. I have a feeling now that's a Samsung issue because I'm having that with a lot of buds. And in addition, you also get a soundstage option in the app, which seems more like a stereo separation to add more space to the sound. It's kind of Marshall's take on a fixed spatial mode, and it's kind of fun and doesn't screw up the sound signature like many other options, but not something I would use to listen to music necessarily. And speaking of music, there's no headphone jack on these, but you do get a coil USB-C to 3.5mm cable to use wired. You need to turn on the headphones to use this though, so no passive use in case you were hoping for that. The sound didn't change too much with my brief testing time with it, but it was good to see that once connected via the cable, I was able to use the volume controls to change the volume on my Mac. However, the rest of it got a bit confusing. Play pause started playing the music on one of my phones instead of the laptop. On the bright side, it did stay connected to both my phones via Bluetooth in addition to the laptop, which is cool. And I could even access the app on one of my phones.
Speaking of the app, it's very good and clean. It lays out all the options clearly and also has some options for preserving battery, which we're very happy to see, which means this is supposed to be a longer term product and the battery life can hopefully be extended with all the preservation features like maximum charging, charging speed, and temperature control. The batteries aren't replaceable, unfortunately, so these won't last forever like wired headphones, but this is still a step in the right direction. There's nothing replaceable on these except the ear pads,
which are quite easy to remove and replace. It's just a simple anti-clockwise twist, and you can see that you can just put it back with those kind of plastic markers and it's back. So it's quite easy to do.
There's also 66% recycled plastic in these cans, which is good. Marshall also sells spare parts for their products, which is basically ear pads on their site. In addition, you also get a wear sensor for automatically playing or pausing your music when you wear your headphones. It worked okay, but it was a bit slow to react, maybe 2 to 3 seconds, nothing earth-shattering. You can also disable the wear sensor in the app if you don't like it.
One issue after some longer testing is that wear sensor, it does seem to get randomly triggered. I've had at least a couple of times where my audio just stopped playing and I look at my phone and it's still connected. Then I figured out it was the wear sensor that was kind of misfiring. And this can be annoying if you're just going about your daily business and don't have your hands free. And of course, there's the battery life. 70 hours with ANC on is phenomenal, but we are seeing a lot of that these days, even with higher resolution codecs than only AAC. You're also getting fast charging, which of course won't work if you try to maximize battery health. There is Multipoint, but there is no device list in the app where you can see all the devices you're connected to. And that's kind of it when it comes to these headphones. Now, at $349, are these worth buying? Well, there's some reasons to look at other options. For example, the design, even though we like it, like we said, maybe there's a bunch of people who don't like this whole leather look and, kind of metal buttons and all that. The ANC and transparency are fine, but they're not top of the line. And at $349, you are competing with basically the Bose and the Sonys of the world. So it's not quite up there. The body-borne sounds is a big letdown for me. I did not experience this in any other headphones so far. So I'm disappointed about that. And of course, high-res codecs. No high-res codecs here, guys. So you could say it's not that much of a big deal, but on the other hand, the same amount of money, you can find high-res codecs elsewhere. It's also got a small case, but it is still on the bulky side, so that's not necessarily my favorite thing about the case. However, if you do like the style, it is very unique. It's compact, it's foldable, it has a decent build, it's very comfortable, the controls are phenomenal, and the calls were great. So it's a great Fuckman set of headphones. And even though there are no high-res codecs, you do get customization in the sound and it's very well tuned. So it definitely brings something unique to the table. If you're bored of the more popular brands out there, not too many flaws in our view.
Now, a quick disclosure, guys, before you head off. We did not get this product from Marshall. We bought these with our own money. And the reason we're able to do it is partially thanks to AdSense. So keep watching and keep subscribing, but also mainly due to our patrons and members. So a big thanks to all of our tiers, from Popsicle, Icicle, and these beautiful tested tier members. And let's not forget our highest tier, the Fuckman tier. And a special thanks there goes out to Rachel, Gamma Panda, and Paula. Check out the link in the description if you want to become a patron and member too. You've been monitoring the Marshall, and we've been DHRME. Dewey.